Okay, thank you for joining. Sorry. Thank you for joining me in yet another video wherein we're going to be dipping into some English grammar. Specifically, we're going to be looking at verbs and the two voices that we use in English, one of which is referred to as active and the other as passive. As a quick refresher, in an active sentence or in an active voice sentence, the subject of that sentence is the one performing the action. Whereas in the passive form, you've got the subject receiving the action. So I'll give you an example of an active sentence. I, being the subject, sat, being the action, on the table or chair, in which case that would be the direct object of my action. Now, I am performing the action. I'm the one sitting. However, in its passive form, it would read the chair or table, whatever, which is now my subject, was sat on by Mr. Mata, which would be me, right? Now I am, as the subject, Mr. Mata, I'm sorry, I'm no longer the subject, but the subject instead, or I am, I am the one receiving the action. The subject is receiving the action, excuse me. All right, now that I've confused you, let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. And I shouldn't say examples necessarily, but instead what this exercise involves is taking existing sentences, more specifically ones that are written in the passive voice, and we'll need to convert them into its active form. So I'll do the first one with you together, and afterwards I'm going to ask that you pause the video to make your corrections independently or convert them independently and resume so that we can review them together and see how you did. All right, so for sentence number one, written in passive voice, every Saturday the front yard is mowed by my brother Charlie. Okay, well, we know Charlie's the one who's mowing the lawn, right? But he's the one receiving the action, not quite what we want. So instead, to convert it to the active voice, let's take Charlie, which should be our subject, and let's refit it into the sentence. Now let's go ahead and keep this here because we want the frequency included. So every Saturday, Charlie, now our subject, mows the front yard. Okay, now we have our subject as Charlie, who happens to mow the front yard, and we know that it's happening every Saturday. So the information stays exactly the same, doesn't change the meaning, but we now have an active version of the sentence. So let's go ahead and, as I mentioned, I'm gonna have you, can you read that? Yes, you can. Pause here to please convert these sentences on your own, and then resume so that we can go over them together. Alrighty, thank you. All right, so I'm moving and shaking. Let's go ahead and take a look at sentence number two. The comet is accompanied by a long tail of dust and gas. So it looks like this portion here is receiving the action. Converting it into its active form, let's go ahead and try. A long tail of dust and gas, now our subject, is accompanied by the comet. So now we have an active form of the sentence. Let's take a look at sentence number three. The phone was, by the way, there are a few potential ways you can manipulate the sentences in its active form. So if yours is not exactly like mine verbatim, don't worry about it. So long as the subject is the one performing the action, just keep that in mind. But anyway, going back to sentence number three, the phone was finally answered by Miss Hosaka, the school librarian. Okay, well, we know she's the one that answered the phone, but again, in this sentence, she's receiving the action. So let's try to convert it with her, our subject, Miss Hosaka. So Miss Hosaka, okay, finally answered the phone. Or if you want to maintain the integrity of the sentence, so Miss Hosaka, the school librarian, finally answered the phone. So now I've kept all parts of the sentence, and because it's syntax, I played with the order of it. Now we've got our active voice. Let's try sentence number four. The nation of Japan is called Nippon by the Japanese people. Okay? The Japanese people, subject, call the nation of Japan Nippon. All right. Sentence five, an increase in the desert size was caused by the overgrazing of cattle. Okay, we know the cattle is the one performing the action, so let's now take that portion and turn it into our subject. So the overgrazing of cattle increase the desert's size, right? So the overgrazing of cattle increased the desert's size. Again, there's a couple ways you can rewrite it. And number six, a tiny robot was inserted into the patient's bloodstream by Dr. Lang. Ooh. Okay, Dr. Lang's the one doing it, so let's go ahead and make this an active version of it. So we're gonna take Dr. Lang, now our subject. So Dr. Lang inserted a tiny robot into the patient's bloodstream. So again, Dr. Lang inserted a tiny robot into the patient's bloodstream. So we're just playing with the order of it. All right, hopefully your corrections or your conversions align with my own. Otherwise, let me know what you did in the comment section below. And should you want to continue to work with me, which I hope you do, please give this video a like and subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. All right, thank you for joining me.